Lately, we've been rewatching the hit animated show Angels of Death on Warhammer Plus, and pondering if we could recreate the iconic monochrome scheme on some real-life models. I'm going to try a few different ways and see which ones I like best. Strap in! The paints and brushes we've used are on screen now. As with every model, remember there is no wrong way to paint it, and these are only our suggestions. If you want to know more about the paints and techniques used in this video, check out our Citadel Colour Painting Essentials playlist on our official YouTube channel. Before we whack the spray can out to apply an undercoat, it's important that we first get the base of our model ready. I'll be using a Terminator Captain and a Vampire Lord on Nightmare Steed. We want to make sure the entire base has texture on it, so for any areas that don't, I've applied a Grelin Earth, and then when it's dry I've sealed it with Ardcoat varnish, as I'll be applying a heavy dry brush over the model and won't want any to flake off in the process. I like using Ardcoat here as it's a gloss varnish so you can exactly see where it's been applied, meaning that you can easily see any areas you've missed. There's a few ways we can get this monochromatic effect. For the Terminator Captain, I'll start with an undercoat of Chaos Black spray. You can do this by hand, but we want to try and get the smoothest undercoat as possible, so apply it in multiple thin coats. The joy of painting with a very limited but complementary scheme is that you can be reasonably messy with it. As the entire model is going to be this bold monochrome scheme without other colours, we can make use of heavy dry brushes to build up the effect. I'm basically picking out 3 or 4 grey colours that will each get subtly brighter. So I've picked Mechanicus Standard Grey, Dawnstone, Administratum Grey, and finally Ulthuan Grey. You can see how they gradually build up to a near white from a lightish grey. Then starting with a medium dry brush, I'll take the darkest grey and give the model a really heavy dry brush with it. We want to make sure that we've removed most of the paint off the dry brush first, as although we'll be applying a lot of paint, we want to do this carefully and by building up layers instead of slapping it on, making sure we keep the black in as much of the recesses as we can. Dry brushing does dry very quickly, but we want to make sure it is completely dry before moving on to the next paint, as if we're not careful, instead of dry brushing, we'll be essentially mixing the paints on the model and spreading them around. I'm going to go in with a small layer brush and apply a highlight of Mechanicus Standard Grey onto the edges of the model, just to help reinforce the colours in case I've missed any areas. Then I'm moving on to Dawnstone. Now we'll be applying a slightly more selective highlight here, so instead of applying a dry brush all over the model, we'll be choosing a single area where the light hits. Imagine the brush is a ray of light coming from a light source. Keeping the end of the brush steady, we'll dry brush over that area and we'll try and keep the model in the same position. Focus at the top of the model and work your way down, gradually reducing how much paint you apply as you go. Try and paint around where the shadows hit to make this even more realistic. I'll apply another edge highlight with this colour too, but I'm making sure not to add too big a highlight onto the original Mechanicus Standard Grey colour. I'll do the same dry brush and highlight with Administratum Grey, and a final dry brush with Ulthuan Grey over the areas affected by the light source the most. With my brush, I'm starting at the top and flicking the brush down instead of going back and forth like usual dry brushing. Keep going until you're happy. Once again, after this is done, I'll apply an edge highlight when the dry brush is dry. Now I'm going to help unify these colours even further by applying an all-over coat of Basilicanum Grey mixed with contrast medium. I want this to be relatively subtle, so I've mixed 1 part paint to 3 parts medium. With my medium shade brush, I've applied this all over the model. As such, I've started from the top and worked my way down, checking for any pooling as I go. It's worth letting the paint sit for a minute and then looking over the model again. As gravity does its thing, the runny paint will start to pool at the lower recesses. So take a clean brush and absorb it before it can dry. When the all-over contrast is dry, I'm going to go in with a medium layer brush and run some Black Legion contrast paint into the very deepest recesses, helping to re-establish the darkest hues on the model. To really push the brightness, I'll be applying a white scar highlight on the very sharpest ridges at the top. This is going to be a really small highlight, usually known as a dot highlight. We really don't need much at all. In fact, less is definitely more. With a lot of dry brushing and highlighting, our monochrome scheme is done. We can leave this here for a super moody noir scheme, but to emulate the Angels of Death animation, I'm going to apply a thin coat of Blood Angels Red contrast paint. Again, I've thinned this with 1 part medium to 1 part paint, and I've used a small layer brush to apply this onto the power armour, leaving the trim, cloth and details. For an alternative way of doing this monochrome effect, I'll be using some sprays. First, I'll start with a true undercoat of Mephiston Red spray. I've made sure this has fully covered the model and there's no grey plastic showing underneath. When it's dry, I'll pick an angle for the light to hit, and whilst keeping the spray at that angle, I'll apply a coat of Chaos Black spray, making sure that I keep the Mephiston Red shining through underneath. Then I've done the same thing with Grey Seer and finally White Scar, keeping the angle consistent every time. This builds up the colour gradient really quickly. But to really seal the deal, I'm applying another coat of Soulblight Grey over the entire model, making sure to catch any pooling that happens. This step helps unify all the colours and provide subtle shading across the entire model. Then I'll apply a quick dry brush of Corax White over the entire model again to help add definition onto the edges. As a final touch, I've applied Blood for the Blood God. I want to apply this like a blood splatter, so how I'll do this is load my brush up with paint, then tap it against my finger, like this. This makes the paint fly off the brush, leaving this amazing spatter effect, and you can add as little or as much as you'd like. It's been loads of fun to try a really different way of painting to how I'd normally approach my models. These schemes are really eye-catching and surprisingly easy to do, and I think a whole army of Midnight Monochrome Soulblight Gravelords would look incredible and would terrify any sane opponent into submission. Probably. For more painting videos, head over to our YouTube channel. If you need more help, you can always head to one of our Warhammer stores where our friendly staff will be more than happy to help. Thanks for watching and have fun painting. Take it easy.